I don't normally do too much in the way of cleaning up and finishing a bow before getting it back to full draw length, because I mean, I always say to people, well, finishing is what you do at the finish. But with this, because of some of the slightly dodgy looking wood, I thought I'd go over it a bit more carefully. So I've cleaned up the back. It's not to a single growth ring, but that's not so important with yew. But I particularly wanted to look where some of the filled knots are, looking for any sign of splintering, and particularly this nice area of burr that was a huge cavity, and most of it's gone now. There's only a couple of tiny little spots where it's been filled, but I thought it might be nice just to wipe that over with some Danish oil to show how the figure's going to pop out. So there we go, it's just giving it a quick wipe, and you can see that's a gorgeous feature. See, that's the dilemma between you know, non-ideal wood and the so-called perfect stave. Ein endless perfect staves of Pacific yew would get rather boring, and you certainly wouldn't get any figure like that in them. The reason I'm doing this now is because I've had it to 26. If it explodes at 28, I wouldn't bother cleaning that up. There, I've got it all covered in dust now. The other thing I noticed is some of this bluey grey discoloration. Some of that seemed to come off as I was using the scraper, especially on the back, so that's quite encouraging. It's interesting, it's very deep compared to its width. Yeah, that vernier is set roughly to the width. And if we put it on the depth, you can see it's only a whisker shallower than it is deep. Mind you, I'm fairly near the grip there. I mean, that's the end of the splice. And obviously where we get right up to the splice, I've left it as thick as it is wide. Yeah, I mean, that's my big area of concern. Is it going to break there? I've left a bit more thickness, but again, you'll see what I've done is I've swelled up round it there, but the back follows that shape to some extent. I haven't left a big bulge here, because all that does is create a weak point either side. In fact, arguably, there's a few undulations. There's a few bits that look thin at one side. Yeah, Danish oil's all covered in dust now, but you've got a dip there that looks very thin. But on the opposite face, I've left it a bit thicker. Anyway, I'll put her up on the tiller. I'll wipe that Danish oil off, and what I'll do is, it's been back to 26. I'll flash it back to 28. If it survives that, I'll get the horn knocks on. Right, in tidying up the back and the belly, which is a lot more rounded now, and getting rid of the tool marks, it's taken the draw weight down a bit. She's now 70 at 26, which equates to 75 at 28, which is pretty much what I want, because I found we've all lost about 10 to 20 pounds of grunt over the winter and over, you know, the time when we couldn't shoot due to COVID. So blokes that were pulling 130 are now struggling with 110. So yeah, anyway, I'll give it plenty of exercise, and if it goes bang, at least I've got the camera running. I was looking at it the other day, measuring the draw weight, and I had it to, I think it might have been a different bow actually, but I had it at about 28, and you could actually see the draw weight dropping as I held it at 28, just creeping back, but you know, it's dropping 2 or 3 pounds. So exercising a bow, and I used to think all this stuff about warming bows up was nonsense, but there's a lot of hysteresis, so if you start getting the material moving and compressing, it stays compressed slightly. That was 27. 28, there you go. And it didn't go bang. Some bows can have you nervous as a kitten, other bows you can be confident as hell and they go bang. Yew is normally pretty forgiving. You know, you can take all sorts of liberties with yew and get away with it. Some people, oh yeah, it's not a good wood for beginners. Actually it is, it's a very good wood for beginners, because you can make a pretty ropey bow and it won't explode. It's also soft, but it's getting that even layer of sapwood's a bit tricky. But at least you don't have to follow a ring. Now having done that, we'll just have a little look, see if she's... I think there's a hint of it trying to go sideways at this tip still. So, yeah, there's a little hint of it. So what I'll do is I'll just make a pencil mark, so when I fit the horn knock, I'll just bias it this way. I mean, I've got very little left on the tips now, but if you've got a choice of doing it one way, of doing a way that's beneficial or a way that isn't, you might as well do it the way that's beneficial. I don't know if you can see down that very well. But it's sort of fairly square at the grip. It's definitely got a little bias this way here. That is the limb. I heat treated. I can't remember which way I pulled it down, to be honest. But that's where you've got all this character, so that's bound to look a bit weird. Actually, I can feel something slightly rough there. There's no real sign of splintering or lifting. Anyhow, it's been to 28, pretty much bang on £75.